Robert Frost, the poet who found extraordinary meaning in ordinary life. Introduction. Today, I would like to talk about one of the most celebrated poets in American history, Robert Frost. When most people hear his name, they immediately think of one famous line. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Even if someone has never read a book of poetry, they have probably heard those words. But Robert Frost was much more than the author of one famous poem. He was a poet who transformed everyday experiences into timeless lessons about life, nature, choices, loneliness, hope, and the human spirit. His poems continue to inspire students, writers, teachers, and readers around the world. Today, I will discuss who Robert Frost was. Interesting facts about his life. His writing style. His greatest poems. The themes found throughout his work. His accomplishments. And why, more than 60 years after his death, the world still remembers him. Robert Lee Frost was born on March 26, 1874, in San Francisco, California. His father, William Prescott Frost Jr., worked as a journalist and teacher. Sadly, when Robert was only 11 years old, his father died from tuberculosis. His mother moved the family across the country to Lawrence, Massachusetts. Life was not easy. The family struggled financially, and Frost worked many different jobs while growing up. He was a teacher, farmer, newspaper editor, and factory worker. Unlike many famous poets, success did not come quickly. Instead, Robert Frost spent many years facing rejection. One of the most inspiring parts of Frost's life is that he did not become famous when he was young. Many publishers rejected his poems. Imagine spending years writing and hearing no over and over again. Most people would have given up. But Robert Frost didn't. In 1912, at the age of 38, he moved with his family to England. There he published his first poetry collection, A Boy's Will. Soon afterward, he published another collection, North of Boston. These books received excellent reviews. After returning to America, publishers who once rejected him suddenly wanted his work. His story reminds us that success often comes to those who continue working long after others would quit. Persistence became one of the greatest lessons from his life. One reason Robert Frost's poetry is so beloved is his deep appreciation for nature. He often wrote about snow, trees, woods, rivers, birds, fields, stone walls, seasons. But his poems were never just about nature. Nature became a mirror reflecting human emotions. A snowy forest might represent peace. A road through the woods might symbolize life's choices. An apple orchard might represent hard work. A wall between neighbors might represent emotional barriers. This ability to turn ordinary landscapes into powerful life lessons made Frost unique. Robert Frost wrote in simple language. Unlike some poets who used complicated words, Frost believed poetry should sound like ordinary conversation. This made his poems easier to understand. Yet beneath the simple language were deep philosophical ideas. His writing often explored decision-making, loneliness, hope, fear, change, aging, death, nature, human relationships. Readers often discover new meanings each time they read one of his poems. His most famous poems. 1. The Road Not Taken. This is undoubtedly Robert Frost's most famous poem. It begins. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. The poem tells the story of a traveler standing at a fork in the road. Unable to take both paths, the traveler must choose one. The roads represent life's decisions. Many people interpret this poem as encouraging individuality and choosing one's own path. Whether choosing a career, education, or personal dream, the poem reminds us that every decision shapes who we become. It has become one of the most quoted poems in history. 2. Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Perhaps Frost's most beautiful poem. A traveler pauses to admire snow falling silently in a quiet forest. Everything feels peaceful. Yet before staying too long, the traveler remembers responsibilities waiting ahead. The poem ends with one of literature's most unforgettable lines. "And miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep." These words remind us that even when life becomes difficult, we must continue moving forward. Many people interpret sleep as both rest and the end of life. The poem teaches perseverance and responsibility. 3. Mending Wall. This poem begins with another famous line. "Something there is that doesn't love a wall." Each spring, two neighbors repair a stone wall separating their properties. One neighbor questions whether the wall is necessary. The other repeats the old saying, "Good fences make good neighbors." The poem asks important questions. Do barriers bring people together? Or do they keep people apart? Even today, the poem remains relevant in discussions about communities, politics, and relationships. 4. Nothing gold can stay. Although only 8 lines long, this poem carries profound meaning. It explains that beautiful moments never last forever. Spring eventually becomes summer. Youth becomes adulthood. Flowers bloom and then fade. The poem reminds us to appreciate beauty while it lasts. Its message has touched generations of readers. 5. Fire and Ice. This short poem asks how the world might end. Some believe by fire. Others believe by ice. Frost compares fire to desire and passion. Ice represents hatred and indifference. Instead of focusing on the literal end of the world, the poem explores destructive human emotions. It demonstrates how much meaning Frost could pack into only a few lines. Becoming the first poet to perform at a U.S. presidential inauguration. Even in his late 80s, Frost continued inspiring audiences around the world. Interesting facts. Here are some fascinating facts about Robert Frost. He spent years as a farmer in New Hampshire, and many farming experiences appeared in his poems. He never stopped revising his work. He loved public speaking and often recited his poems from memory. His poems have been translated into many languages. Schools across America continue teaching his poetry. Many of his poems contain multiple meanings, making them enjoyable for both young readers and scholars. Although often called a nature poet, Frost insisted he wrote about people using nature as his setting. He believed poetry should reveal truth through ordinary experiences. Lessons we can learn. Robert Frost's life teaches several valuable lessons. First, never give up. Success may come later than expected. Second, appreciate the world around you. Even a snowy evening or a quiet forest can inspire deep reflection. Third, every choice matters. Life is filled with decisions that shape our future. Fourth, responsibilities remain even during difficult times. Like the traveler in Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, we all have promises to keep. Finally, beauty is temporary. Because life changes constantly, we should appreciate every precious moment. Why Robert Frost will always be remembered. Robert Frost will always be remembered because he made poetry accessible. He proved that simple words could express profound truths. He showed that ordinary moments, a walk through the woods, a snowfall, a stone wall, or a country road, can hold extraordinary meaning. His poems continue to encourage readers to think deeply about life, relationships, choices, and the passage of time. Generations of students still memorize his poetry. Teachers continue using his work to introduce poetry because it is both beautiful and meaningful. Writers admire his ability to combine simplicity with wisdom. Readers find comfort in his reflections on perseverance, nature, and hope. His influence on American literature remains unmatched. In closing, Robert Frost was far more than America's most famous nature poet. He was a storyteller, a philosopher, a teacher, a farmer, and above all, a keen observer of life. Through poems like The Road Not Taken, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, Mending Wall, Nothing Gold Can Stay, and Fire and Ice, He showed us that every path, every season, and every moment carries meaning. More than a century after writing these poems, Robert Frost continues to inspire millions of readers around the world. His words remind us to embrace life's journey, cherish nature, make thoughtful choices, and keep moving forward, even when the road ahead is uncertain. As Robert Frost wrote, "And miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep." Thank you.